Hello, Welsh Forest Focus. It's never easy being a Nottingham Forest fan as we're in the thick of another torturous Premier League relegation run-in after Saturday's 2-2 draw with Wolves. We'll discuss another 2 points dropped, look ahead to the next game against Everton and assess the wider relegation battle in the company of, first of all, Reds fan Emily Anderson. Morning, Emily. How are you doing?
Good morning. Very good, thank you. Yes, refreshed and ready to go.
Good. As am I. Second guest today is Michael Temple. Temps, how are you?
Good, thanks. Morning, everybody.
Good to have you with us. And third guest is Reds legend Garry Birtles. Gary, good morning. Are you well?
Very well. It's been a very good weekend. I got the winner of the National and the winner of the Masters.
Wow.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, fair play. Oh.
Both favourites, but still got them.
That'll keep him in designer shirts for a while, won't it?
Oh no, it's all going wrong. It's closing down.
It's gone into administration, hasn't it?
As I was there this morning, just getting a few last things, with a tear in my eye.
Oh, other brands are available, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were the Forest fans as well in there as well, which makes it even, sadder for me.
Oh dear. Right, moving back to football. Emily, kick us off. What are your just general thoughts on what we witnessed at the City Ground on Saturday?
Well, it's clearly a game that we could and should have won. We dropped 2 points. We didn't gain 1 point. And at full time, I really felt the force of that. And there was a real sense you could see in the City Ground of a bit dumbstruck. How the hell did we not come out with 3 points? And it was 2 defensive errors that cost us, but also missed chances. For me, that Origi chance at the end was just, oh, God, why didn't we score that and finally win a game 3-2? And it was defensive set pieces again that left us feeling like, oh, can't we defend? They got that corner, didn't they, in the second half, their first corner of the game for Wolves. And standing with the people I was with, we just were like, here we go, 2-2. And it was 2-2. And it was a bit of a howler in the box. I couldn't pin it on one player, but I say Woods, Chris Wood, Matt Sells, no one was doing what they should be doing. I thought the crowd were really good in parts on Saturday, really tried to G the boys on. We've got talent in the squad. We should have been winning the game. We didn't. But after 48 hours or so, I feel more level-headed about it. And actually, it's a point. It's a point on the board, and every point in the Premier League's vital. Luckily, Luton slipped up. But we might not be that lucky next weekend. So hopefully some lessons have been learned from those defensive frailties this weekend.
Emily, no lessons are being learned. That's the thing. We do. We're the worst in the league. I think it's 22 goals we've conceded from set pieces. I was reading that in the weekend. We've got apparently we've got a set piece coach in there. What's going on? We cannot defend to save our lives. And the first goal was as bad as anything I've seen as well. He picked it up and he's just in his own half. How the hell was he allowed to score that? Yes, it was a great finish, but it should have been dealt with before then. We don't learn our lessons. And we've been saying that for so long, but it keeps on happening. And at that level, you'll keep getting punished. And, if we keep doing it, we're going to get sucked in right in there and we could go down. Learn your lessons. Don't take chances.
I think that's exactly why we are where we are. Luckily, we can score goals, but we can't defend. And like you say, we aren't learning from our mistakes. And that's why we find ourselves a point and goal difference above the drop zone.
Morning to everyone who's with us. Good to have your company on a Monday morning at this time. And one of the questions I was going to ask Temps was, it's the story of the season, I guess. It feels very predictable. And like Gary said, is there any scenario where you think we get better defensively, or are we just going to have to hope we score more goals than the opposition to stay up now?
The set piece thing. The set piece thing is the story of the season, isn't it? The stat that Match Today pulled out was 22 goals conceded from set pieces by Forest. 16 is the nearest to us in terms of conceding goals. So we're the outlier, and we were after 10 games. We are now. Nothing has demonstrably changed. You could pick on Chris Wood, who's free to attack the ball and then inexplicably allows the Wolves man to get the first header, which leads to that goal. We can debate the keeper's performance later on, but all of those individual errors are catastrophic to the number of points we've dropped. That's the other killer stat, which everyone's been quoting in the Forest universe: 50 points conceded from winning positions since we've been back in the Premier League. So what does it tell you? It tells you there's a team there, there's a creativity there, there's an ability to get a foothold in games. then there's a lapse that's going to kill you that doesn't in any other league in the world. There's nowhere with as many a collection of deadly players as there is in the Premier League, and that's what we're finding time and time again. So the story of the season is internally, we have failed to capitalise on the quality of the squad that we have. We've improved the level of players, the things we do with the ball, the patterns of play, the confidence, the nature of the attacking players that we're able to pick. But then it all blows up when we concede a corner. And that's not good enough to get to the level of ambition that we want to have. And what seems to be our get out of jail free card is there are 3 terrible teams in the Premier League this season. And we take that positive. We're 1 point better off in that race against Luton than we were before the season. But our ambition before the season was not just to be slightly better than Luton. And that's been our big failing.
I think the problem is we've got nobody who can really head a ball properly. We've got 2 centre-halves. Yeah, Murillo's good on the ball. Murillo's good at this. But we're not the tallest team in the Premier League. You know what? Not the biggest team. When Bolly's in there, you feel a little bit more confident. But, you know, teams just know how bad we are. And they just put balls in early in our box from open play and from set pieces. They know we're fragile. You know, because you have to, your centre-halves have to be able to be good in the air. And they're not particularly good in the air, our 2 centre-halves at the moment. You have to say that. You know, I've seen Murillo, we've mentioned it this season. He heads the ball up in the air. You know, some of the goals we've conceded, you know, have come from those, you know, frailties in our own box. But, you know, what's the answer? I mean, Felipe's always injured at the moment. Bolly's doesn't seem to be available at the moment. You know, the options aren't very, you know, good for us at the moment. But despite that, we should have won the game. But the annoying thing for me again was the lack of quality when we were in good positions in and around their box. Nico Williams, he's a good player, don't get me wrong. But why does he always have to take 1 touch too many? How many times did he get his crosses blocked on Saturday? It was just absolutely. I was sat next to Hans van Breukelen, and he was saying exactly the same. He's a goalkeeper. Get it in early. You know, and we've got Hudson-Odoi on the other side, who I think, you know, when he picks the ball up, the crowd lifts. You can hear it because they know he's going to take somebody on, but his quality has got to get better in that final third. I feel so sorry for Chris Wood because he makes his run as a striker and they delay. They check back, they take another touch. And it's so annoying as a striker when you see your teammates do that. I'd be going mad at them. And, you know, I go back to the Tottenham game where we got beat 3-1. That ball that caused the own goal, Murillo, it comes in early. You put pressure on defenders by putting the ball in early. You know, he could do nothing else there. He couldn't leave it, puts it in his own net. Just don't look up. Don't try and be clever. Don't check back. Just put the ball in an area where you can cause them to make a mistake or Chris Wood will have the opportunity to get on the end of it. Simple as. It's not rocket science. It really isn't.
Does Hudson-Odoi need to mix it up a bit? Because I thought he had another really good game, but does he need to, you know, go on the outside a bit more, get the ball in earlier, as you say, rather than check back and knock it to the edge of the box?
You don't need to be clever. You don't need to take too many touches. I think that we try and over egg the pudding at times. We check back and think, oh, that's the way to do it. No, it isn't. The way to do it is put pressure on defenders, and by checking back, you let them off the hook. You know, it's just basics, really, again, and it's just so annoying. Because I played with the 2 guys, you know, O'Dea on one side and Robertson on the other. You knew as a striker, and you'll ask Tony Woodcock, Peter, with anybody who play up front, that ball is going to come in early. It gives you great opportunities to, you know, as a striker, to get half a yard on your marker. That's what you want as a striker. Because once you've made your first run and it doesn't come in, you've then got to track out and do something else. And we've seen what Chris Wood can do when he gets that early service. He'll score your goals. It's just really frustrating, as you can tell.
Going back to the set-piece goal then, because that was probably one of the big things, Emily. Do you think it's a physical weakness, a mental weakness, a failure of coaching? What is it? Because I know Nuno said he thinks he can solve it, but I don't think he can now. I don't think anyone can before the end of the season.
Is he going to play centre-half himself?
I think it's probably a combination of all those things you've mentioned. Probably not being taught to defend set pieces properly, which you'd think as a professional footballer would be quite a basic attribute of a defender. again, it might be a mental thing. You know, you can be a world-class footballer, but if your head's not right and it keeps happening and you keep conceding, yeah, maybe that might be part of it. I just think it was inevitable, wasn't it? It was inevitable. As soon as we went 2-1 up, I kind of had this sense that there was another twist in the game and it probably wouldn't go in our favour. For me, Sells probably should have punched it away rather than trying to save it. The zonal marking didn't work. Why are we doing that? It was an inevitable goal. Just mark your player. And I'm not slagging Wood off here, but what the hell was he doing in that box? I mean, he was the tallest player in that box for us, yet he wasn't marking his man. And there was just this kerfuffle, wasn't there? That's all I can call it without being rude. And as soon as Sells sort of half-assed pushed the ball away, I thought, here we go, 2-2. There you go, boom, easy.
Emily, before they delivered the corner, I quite like the setup. You watch it back, everything seems organised. The keeper's protected. Yeah. We've marked their threats, and the zones are covered. The bit you can't control is then the quality of the delivery. Where's the ball going to drop? And it was Chris Wood's responsibility at that point, because he's free to attack that ball. I don't think he should be concerned about marking at that point. But he has that glance while the ball's mid-flight, and that allows him to steal his march. He loses the header, and then the keeper makes that mistake. Chris Wood affects the first contact there. We're not even talking about Matt Sells, who as Emily rightly says, was caught between punching, catching, and did the worst of both worlds. Tried to go two hands, make the perfect stop, spilled it, and Wolves had swamped him by that point, and it was virtually a tap-in. But Chris Wood has to attack and win that first ball, and we don't concede. We don't debate Matt Sells.
I'm with Emily on the zonal marking. I always have been against zonal marking because I played centre-half, for quite a bit of my career at the end. And I was, you're always told to pick somebody up. And if you don't pick somebody up, space never scores a goal. If you've got your man and you've said this before and you get it wrong, like, Chris probably did, and it's your fault. It's just, I just don't get zonal marking. Just, be told, right, you pick him up, you pick him up, you pick him up. And if he gets away, then we know whose fault it is. You pick Chris Wood out there. It's always, not very nice picking somebody out to blame, but he wouldn't be on his own. And I don't know what the set piece coach is doing. If he's, I tell you what, set pieces for us, crikey, that was a sea change, wasn't it? Gibbs White not taking any of them. Danilo taking them on one side, Reina taking them on the other. So that's all changed as well. And it worked because Gibbs White scored. But defensively, try something different. If it's not working, if you're doing zonal, just do man-to-man. It might just work. Try and block somebody off. Try and, stop what's going on a regular basis.
Let's get their other goal out of the way before we talk about more positive stuff. We'll do all the negative first, then look at a few more positive things. What's your analysis of it, Gary? Who's more to blame, Omobamidele or Yates? Is it 50-50? It was a bit of a disaster from both of them, I thought.
I think it's defensively. I think Murillo comes into it as well. It was all too easy for him. He's not a big 6'6", battering ram going at you. We forced him out to the edge of the box, and then he's allowed to turn back in and just pick his spot. Yeah, it got a bit of a deflection, but you stop it at source when it first comes your way, when he's picked it up on the halfway line. Nobody tried to stop him. They allowed him to come right into our box. Then you thought, right, yeah, they forced him out. Oh, no, they've let him turn. And, yeah, he scored a great goal, but it was so avoidable yet again. We've talked of that word has been absolutely overused this season when we've been talking about conceding goals as Nottingham Forest. Avoidable, avoidable, avoidable. So many have been that way. And it continues. And if you don't attack that at source and stop it, it's going to continue. Concentration in football is the most important thing in the game, especially at that level. And our concentration levels, I think, aren't good enough. They switch off. And if you switch off, no matter if you're playing Wolves, Manchester City, they have individual talent that will punish you on a regular basis. And that's what keeps happening. Again, learn your lessons. We don't do that. That's the biggest thing for me. If you learn your lessons and somebody sticks it in the top corner and it's a brilliant finish, you haven't got a problem with that. But when it's avoidable and you can stop it not once, twice, or three times we could have stopped that first one, but we didn't. And it was just so simple.
Garry, the influence of Cunha on a game after 2 months out of a hamstring was a bit of a concern for me. As a one-man counter-attack, I think when he ended up taking the shot, there wasn't another Wolves player in the box. And I think the failing is Omobamidele makes no attempt to affect the upper body of Cunha throughout that entire run from the halfway line onwards. He's got Yates catching back. He's got Murillo as the covering defender. He can afford to engage him. He can afford to club him on the halfway line if he has to. But he just jockeys him, tries to buy the time. It reminded me a little bit of the Antonio Murillo one-on-one, difference being that was a genuine one-on-one. There are covering defenders there. He could have affected his upper body, delayed him, done what he had to do. He didn't. Jockeyed, retreated. Cunha did well, but the lack of any kind of physical contact or off-put just allowed him to make a pretty tough goal look super simple. And that was that was a weakness. Needed to hit him on the halfway line, at least affect his upper body. Far too passive.
Well, I've seen attempts. You make a good point. I watch a game and I watch the defenders, Murillo and whatever his name. I always get that one. Omobamidele, yeah. And when the danger comes, you go towards the man on the ball because he's the main danger because he has the ball at his feet. Our defenders don't do that. They stay in the middle and allow him to come. And on a couple of occasions that happened. They don't go and confront the man with the ball. He is always the most dangerous because he has the ball in his possession. He is going to make it happen. The guy who's behind, he might come to him, he might sky it over the bar. The immediate thing is stop that ball coming in your box. Go and close it down. We don't do that very, very well either.
Yates has to close the space as well, though, doesn't he? I mean, when you watch it back, he's not done anything special to get between them. If they get their body position right between them, and surely Cunha's not getting that shot off. I don't think Yates covered himself in glory either.
No, it's willy-nilly. Just, he's not going to score here. He's got a lot to do. We can sort this out. But Temps said, no physical contact. Nothing to stop him. Somebody take a yellow card if you think he's going to cause a problem. But no, we just allow him to go in the box, turn, stick it in the top corner. Thank you very much. And, it's just so frustrating.
The only other sniff Wolves had in the first half, Emily, was when we gifted them a chance. I mean, Sells gave Yates a ball he didn't want, but Yates still should be good enough to do so much better with it. That was poor.
I mean, that was hot in your mouth, wasn't it? Moment that was. It was just like, geez, is this like Sunday League under 10s or what?
I know. Murillo bailed us out there, didn't he? That was class clearance from Murillo, to be fair. I'll come back to Emily on Ryan Yates, but just before we do, a word for our sponsors, the Trent Navigation. I shall give a plug for their... Where's it gone? Oh my God, I've lost the plug. There it is. Professional as ever. Hopefully you enjoyed the pre-match experience this time of Fotheringham. It was good to see him. Lovely guy. So down the Trent Navigation. Obviously, next home game is Manchester City. And they've announced the Rick Parfitt show after the Chelsea game as well. So that should be really good. But a great match day experience. I enjoyed being down there on Saturday very much. I think that might be my last game, but I'll try and get to one more, hopefully. So, yeah, thanks as ever to the Trent Navigation for their support. Right. I stayed off Twitter quite a lot of the weekend, but I don't know if the algorithms are just pushing me towards every single tweet being about Ryan Yates, Emily. What did you make of him? I don't think he had a good game, and I don't think he should be starting.
No.
But was he that bad?
I don't think he had a good game, and it probably wasn't the game for him in hindsight. But what I will say is that I think he's held to a much higher standard than the rest of the team because he's homegrown and he's an easy target. And I'm sick to death of the debate over Ryan Yates. No matter what you think about him professionally, stop talking about any personal attributes and slagging him off because it will affect the player. They are human beings. So that is what I'll say in the first instance. No, he didn't have a good game. He had a bit of a shocker actually on his standards. And actually when Dominguez came on, it felt a lot more balanced. It felt like Dominguez had more to his game. I don't know why he didn't. I don't know why it didn't work for him because actually I don't think he's done that badly in other games. And there are certain games from Everton game, for example, we might want him in that game because we need him to break up play and really get on the nerves of the Everton players. But yeah, I don't know what had got into him because there was that awful mistake we talked about, which could have led to a Wolves goal. He kept trying to shoot from the edge of the box, and I wonder whether I know he scored a goal in training that was on social media, so maybe he thought he wanted to have a pop and get his first Premier League goal. But yeah, it just didn't work for him. It just didn't work for him at the weekend. And it was so obvious once Dominguez came on that he probably should have started.
Yeah. What's your take on it, Thames? I thought, Dominguez was significantly more progressive, and I feel like he needs to come into the team now, even if, I'm a fan of Ryan Yates, but Dominguez and Danilo looks like a better pairing to me.
This might be the turning point for that, and I don't think it's any kind of victimisation. It's just the eye test, isn't it? And a player taking his chance, having come on. Danilo is the safe central midfield pick at this moment of time because he can affect the game in both halves of the pitch. I'll take Yates on a little bit. He's received the ball as the sixth there, back to goal, admittedly, pinging from the keeper. But you've got to be able to make a one-touch pass to your fullback. Or Nico was further advanced, wasn't he? And was an open player, and he's given it away. He was swamped though. They kind of tempted him into that. They wanted JC to have the ball, and then they swamped him. You compare that to Doyle, who just marched onto our back four pretty frequently in the first half and was completely unaffected. I don't think he's the best ball player in the Premier League either, but we allowed him the space. They made Yates the free man, tempted us to give it to him, then swamped it. Felt organised, felt like they'd worked out what his weak point was. But it was a pretty desperate pass because Selson and Bamidele had played a needless 1-2 to draw on the Wolves press in their own penalty box. And their out ball was to Yatesy just outside the D, about to be swamped by two players. So we've set him up for that fall. That's not his best attribute, one-touch passing. He's a disruptor. Dominguez, Danilo, back in the day, Ben Watson at championship level, they would love getting the ball in that possession, but it's not Yatesy. And I fear some of the things now that we're asking him to do in the Premier League are exposing some of those areas of relative weakness in his game and detracting from what he's brilliant at, which is all the things that me and Emily love him for: the industry, the aggression, the tireless work rate. But I do feel now, ahead of the games we've got to come, his position is under more threat than it has been.
I think away from home, he might be a little bit more productive for us. I think when we play at home, because we feel we have to be positive and get on the front foot and go and win the game, I think, that might be a little bit of a struggle, because when he's in possession deep, he puts his foot on the ball and it sort of slows everything down. I think if he does what he does well, which is, like you've said, break up play and do play to his strengths, I think then he can be productive. I mean, it's like Joe Worrell when he was there. He was another very honest local lad. He gave everything he possibly could. And you knew that was going to happen. Sometimes he made mistakes, and you could probably, put Ryan alongside him in that respect. But it's a difficult one because he's the captain as well. He's leading the team out, which it makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, that was a good point by Temps. I thought I didn't think of that at the time, but Wolves. It was the first time Wolves are pressed, and I do think, actually, they were probably waiting for Yates to get with the ball his back to goal. Yeah,
can I just say something on that? The modern way of saying things is now, well, that's the way the modern game is. That's the way it's played. Right, okay, Burnley were saying the same about their goalkeeper. Two howlers in succession. Right, okay, that's the way we play. Let's get relegated then. Oh, yeah, brilliant. We'll keep doing it. We'll keep making mistakes by trying to do silly things and get ourselves relegated. What is the point in that? You don't do that. You just change things. I mean, those two howlers from him, could have cost Burnley dear. People said they might not have survived anyway. But I'm fed up of hearing people say, "Well, that's the way it is nowadays. Goalkeeper have got to ping it 60 yards to feet." And how many goalkeepers, even the best ones in the Premier League, take their time to play the ball and let the striker close down? Calvert-Lewin last week, that one. They just. It's not just him at Burnley. All keepers seem to do that. They try and be a little bit clever. They're always in five-a-sides in training. They always thought they were centre forwards or, central midfield players. But they're not. They're goalkeepers. And sometimes you play the percentages. And if you don't, you're still going to get beaten and punished every week. It's farcical.
Yeah. I certainly don't think Ryan Yates is the reason we didn't win the game. I think there's so many tweets about him because he's the one that people don't want in the team. But, Matt Sells had a howler for the second goal, and I don't think he had a particularly good game. We weren't good defensively. So I think it was a collective failing again. But yeah, I agree. Yates, you probably shouldn't be in the team. I'll just say as well, congratulations to Paul Lindsay for raising his £10,000, the Alzheimer's Society. I know he did the walk from Land's End to Johnny Groats. So well done, Paul. Congratulations for that big achievement. Right, let's move away from Yatesy there and look at our goals. It was an ironic first goal, Emily, with Gibbs White finally taken off corners, and then he's the man who nods one in. Like Garry said as well, they were good deliveries from Reina and Danilo. What was your take on that first goal?
Yeah, great. First of all, we scored from a corner. When was the last time we did that? Does anyone know? Look it up. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, and the Irish
volley at Man U.
Yeah, there you go. Which a long time. Well, it feels like a long time ago. In fact, it was end of last summer, wasn't it? September, October time. Anywho, yeah. So Reina's deliveries were great, actually. And just talking about Reina, I thought he had a really solid full debut for Forest. I was really worried when I saw Elanga wasn't in the squad, but actually Reina stepped up brilliantly. I mean, we missed Elanga's pace, but like I say, Reina's set piece deliveries were fantastic. And I was really pleased for Gibbs White that he got on the end of it. The irony of that when he's been taking set pieces all season, and he got the chance to really wind up the Wolves fans, didn't he, with his trademark fingers in the ears celebration, which I don't think they showed much of on TV. So an assist for Reina. I just thought it was a lovely worked equaliser, and we didn't have to wait too long for it. We're very good at scoring sort of in injury time in the first half. So, yeah, it was nice to go in at the break 1-1. And at that point, it felt like we were really on top. We were the better team and we were creating the most chances. So, yeah, it was great.
Near Kate Villa was the last corner goal, actually. People are pointing out. But we were 3-0 down by then, so we're not going to remember that one. This isn't a popular question. Did anyone think we got away with it? If you look at the goal, Gibbs White gives Semedo a very nice shove, which Cunha gets booked for protesting. You're sort of nodding there, Thames. Did you spot that? Because my Wolves friends spotted it and they've been telling me about it repeatedly.
Yeah, he did. But listen, I'm not even going to justify it with a long answer. VAR has killed us so many times this season. If Morgan Gibbs White wants to give Semedo a shove in the back, then I'm all for it.
I think it was clever. The dark arts, we're crap at the dark arts. Let's let's give Gibbs White a little bit of praise for a little clever shove there, I would say. And it was a good ball by Reina. What was your take on Reina, Garry, when his first start?
It's always going to be difficult because so much is expected, on your first full start in a game. He does the simple thing well. He doesn't try and be clever. I mean, the annoying thing for me, I think we flick things in bad areas too much. We try and be clever in our own half. You use your flicks in the final third, in and around the box, but we do it in our own halves. And how many goals does that cost us? He doesn't. He gets it 1-2 touch, does the simple thing, gives it to players who are then going to create further up the pitch. And, you need that basic style of play, somebody who you feel comfortable giving the ball to in any given area. And then it allows Gibbs White to produce. It allows, when Elanga's playing, if the two do play, the player and Hudson-Odoi, it allows them to go and ply their trade further up the pitch. So, yeah, it was a decent start in a difficult game because everybody said it's a must-win game, and it is a game that we threw away 2 points. But he was okay. He was okay.
I think we've seen better around the top of the box with this shape. Reina naturally wants to drift inside. He wants to be a 10, doesn't he? Although notionally he's kind of starting for Elanga wide right. He drifted inside far more times when he was able to get on the ball. He obviously had that shot early on, which whistled past the post. I'm impressed with the size of him as well. He profiles differently to Morgan Gibbs White, despite having great feet. He's far more physical than I perhaps gave him credit for before we signed him. Obviously doing well in training because it is a bit of a make weight, finding a way to accommodate him, wanting to be a second 10, but having responsibility wide and a little bit of defensive responsibility too. We couldn't really see how he was going to get the minutes, could we, between now and the end of the season, but I don't think he's done himself any harm at all with that performance of the weekend.
Danilo's corners were really good. They're a little bit more hit and miss, Emily, but when they're good, they're really dangerous. And I was actually a bit frustrated. I don't remember us getting the first contact on any of them. There was one second half where if someone had run around the back post, there was a tap in there, but just on Danilo's corners and the quality of his game as well. I thought, was he our man of the match? I don't know.
I think he was. I know Murillo got it in the stadium, didn't he? But I thought Danilo was great. And he still does have those moments that irritate you with those wayward passes. And I feel like if Yates had committed those wayward pass offences, we'd be giving him pelters. But we seem to afford Danilo a bit more concession. But no, I thought he had a really great game. I thought most of his corners were okay. I actually thought Reina was better at delivering in the crosses into the box, but he was powerful, he was creative. He obviously scored his goal, didn't he, to take us 2-1 up. So yeah, I thought Danilo had a great game, and I think he's kind of cemented his place for now in that midfield. He's definitely showing us what he can do.
I guess Temps, he's the progressive one, isn't he? Like, he gives the ball away, but he's trying something, and he's the one. He actually ran in beyond. We saw that with his goal. It was a bit reminiscent of last season. If he's the guy who comes alive in spring like a hibernating animal, then I'm all for it at the moment.
Exactly that. Reminded me of the way he was last season. He's a pretty cool character in the box, isn't he? I think a lot of people would have had a snapshot first time. He actually took a really delicate first touch, and the finish was never in doubt. You can probably tell I went out on Saturday. I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. I'm still recovering, but yeah, Danilo's impressive. You could argue at times he's a bit of a luxury player. There's a valid comment a second ago about Danilo can't play away, and I think what we mean by that is he becomes a bit of a luxury if, when the game's broken up, last 20-25 minutes, he does abandon his post a bit and charge on. But you've got to get in the box. There's a direct correlation between the number of touches you're having in the opposition's penalty box and the goals you're going to score. And he does make an effort to bust into the box. Great understanding with Morgan Gibbs-White. I think that they kind of look for each other on the edge of the box. And whilst that goal, they kind of contrived together and combined, it was a little bit accidental because of the intervention of the defenders. But look at the Fulham goal. Look at the manner in which they look for each other. Look at the way that Danilo makes absolute lung busters to get ahead of the ball. And that's why he's scoring goals and having chances. He gets in and around the top of the box at the right time. He's fit enough to do the defensive things well. And I think he is comfortable receiving the ball in his own third. So good player. At times it's been hard to accommodate him. If he's setting up with two absolute defensive midfielders, he's probably not the one. But we're a better side at home for having Danilo playing, and he's impressed me in the last few weeks.
It is a dying art, isn't it, Gary, as well? Midfield players breaking into the box. A lot of teams now will set up with two deep-lying midfielders and a proper number 10. And the guy who breaks late, we don't see it much. I feel it adds something to our team. It's a real gripe of mine. I think it is of yours as well. We just don't get enough men in the box, do we? We saw the value of it there.
I was sat with two of the best on Friday because Hans van Breukelen was the guest of the match on Saturday. And we met up with Steve Hodge, Ian Bowyer, and Viv Anderson in the hotel in Nottingham. And I sat there thinking, if only, those two, they were superb at it. Neil Webb was another one. He didn't get enough credit for, doing that as well. And it is a dying art now. We looked at Gerrard and Lampard. I think they were probably the last two in that category that would do that on a regular basis and would be allowed to do it because they got protection. They knew they could do it without fear of, retribution or, being blamed for missing when they got past the striker. Do you see a midfield player go past the striker anymore? Possibly you do, because strikers have to play that deep now to get involved in the game that sometimes they can go past you. But it is a dying art, and only the best teams in world football have got players who will do that now.
Lampard was a 20-goal man as well, Gary, wasn't he? He took his chances.
He did, and Gerrard, we know how good he was. But I'm trying to think of one now who you would say, even in the Premier League, is unbelievably good at doing that.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I mean, Foden and Havertz, maybe.
Foden.
They're the only ones. Yeah, on the break, particularly. We should have gone on to win it, I guess, from there, Emily. Even at 2-2, Wolves looked very content to me to sit back, take a point. They were pretty bare bones. It's another case where we played a team at the right time. Very frustrating. I mean, how many chances did we have after? We'll come on to the Origi chance specifically, but Hudson-Odoi had opportunities as well, didn't he?
Yeah, we absolutely should have gone on to win it. And I don't know if you could hear where you were in the ground. I was in the lower Bridgeford, and at 2-1, Waka Waka started on repeat for 5 minutes until Wolves inevitably equalised. I felt it was a little premature that early in the second half, and it turns out it was a little premature, but I have to confess I did join in. I was Waka Waka-ing all the way through. until that dreaded corner. Yeah, we 100% should have won the game. For me, it was that Origi chance. I mean, I was at the wrong end of the pitch to see it, but from where I was standing, it was.
I was and Emily, I was right level with it on the 18-yard box, and I just couldn't believe what he did there. It was just embarrassing. It was just not. It wasn't even difficult to do what he had to do. Again, he took one touch too many that he didn't need to. Chris would have got himself in a great position just to tap it in, and the pace on the ball was ridiculous. It went beyond everybody. It wasn't even close. And at that level, you've got to question Origi again. What? It's baffling that he just can't perform for us for some reason. Whether it's because he's not getting a regular game, I don't know. Because strikers need regular football to perform, but that's a basic, simple ball across the face of the goal, just to your teammate to tap it in. He deserved it. I mean, the Hudson-Odoi ones, I was there as well, and he snatched out a couple of them. I think the panic and the realization that this chance could be the one to win the game. It can get to players, of course it can. I know better than anybody when I was at Man United. It's you try too hard sometimes, and you take things too early sometimes. So sometimes it is understandable, but they are good chances, and it's good that we're creating those chances.
Do you not think though? And I don't know if anyone else felt this, but I felt from sort of probably 80 minutes onwards, we got more and more disorganised. That all the players were a bit more panicky. There was no cohesion, and it felt like everyone was a little bit too nervous. They were feeling the pressure, the crowd were feeling the pressure, and maybe that's why Hudson-Odoi snatched at those chances. Maybe that was why there was a rush of blood to the head for Origi, who didn't play the simple pass. And maybe it is those, getting in your head type of things, which of course they shouldn't be doing at any time, particularly at that stage in a game. But it's happening. I mean, we can see from the teams at the other end of the Premier League that are slipping up. In the Championship, teams are slipping up. It's a really crucial part of the season, which I'm sure you remember well from your playing days, Garry, where you've got to just get out of your head, haven't you? I guess you've just got to try and focus on that game in front of you. But it's really, really hard to do that. And I guess we can see from the top professionals that, sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, that's why the best professionals in every sport. I watched the golf tour gone midnight last night. Scotty Scheffler won it. He's world number one for a reason, and they put him under intense pressure. And all of a sudden, he comes up with the goods. He has like 3 birdies on the trot. Djokovic, all these years he's been playing tennis. You think he's going to lose a game, then all of a sudden he finds what he needs to go and win that game. The Messis and the Ronaldos who've continued at the top level for so many years. They do that. The best in in their respective businesses do that on a regular basis. And the Premier League is the Premier League in world football, without a doubt. And if you're in that level, at that level, you need to do better than that. There's no excuse for some things. Yeah, panic and everything, but you're the best and playing in the best league for a reason. And, we're just not good enough in that final third at the moment.
No. And we are relentlessly terrible in injury time. Like, I can't remember an injury time where we've threatened a goal. This one was mostly Nuno Tavares putting it into touch. I don't know. I mean, it was a short cameo, but he was awful when he came on.
You're thinking about the substitutions baffled me a little bit as well. Aina keeps getting taken off, and I think he's done all right.
I think he was injured. I think he might have been injured. He looked like he had a thigh problem.
Or as well.
Yeah. I don't think he can last 90 minutes, can he, Aina?
So why not bring on Toffolo, who we knows, he's not going to set the world on fire, but he'll give you a safe pair.
Well, I think he's chasing the win, isn't he? Like he sees Tavares and Hudson-Odoi have a link, but Tavares was awful.
I thought that when he came on, but then he did nothing going forward. He didn't do anything, did he? He just kept losing the ball.
He nearly cost us by giving the ball away. Toffolo, only times did he put decent crosses in for us to score goals. He will do that early. That's what I like about him. When he gets in an area, he doesn't try and be clever. He'll put it in the box. Defender defends it, fine. But he gives our striker an opportunity of, having a chance on goal.
Yeah, I didn't mind the sub so much. I mean, Reina, he's probably not going to last 90 minutes. Origi's the only choice there, I guess. I liked Ribeiro when he came on. Thought he was bright. Good ball to Origi. Just on Origi temps. I mean, he's been in that position 3 or 4 times now, that inside right channel, and he's taken on the far post and missed it every time. Do you think maybe he's a bit of confidence, a bit of being caught in 2 minds in that situation?
If I was being kind, I'd say confidence. If I was being honest, I'd say ability. I don't think he's a player in that top echelon anymore. Hasn't scored a Premier League goal in a long time. Could well go a Forest season here without scoring. I think there was an opportunity to pass one touch earlier and to slide Chris Wood in, who timed his run quite nicely to be ahead of the defenders, but with Origi and behind the ball. I think that was the option decision, that the high percentage decision at that point was to square the ball. It was a poor shot. It was a shot off target. And I just feel that when Brennan was in that position, or when leading players at other clubs are in that position, you're backing them to score and make the right choice. And Origi, for all of his power and physicality and fairness, ability to find himself in these kind of positions once, twice a game, doesn't seem to take the right option. So I think it's compounded by confidence, but we just have to be honest and say he's not in that tier of player that's going to convert those as often as we need him to.
You're not saying it was a shot, are you, that he tried?
Well, the technique would suggest it was. He hit with the laces, didn't he? So I think he probably was shooting, yeah.
No, it was a cross.
I was level with it. It looked like a pass. It was so poorly executed.
Not shot. He's hit it with his side foot, which is the right thing to do, but he just over-hit it by a country mile. You know, the pace of just, you know, it's just staggeringly bad at that level. It wasn't a shot. If it was a shot, crikey, nearly hit us in the main stand.
Well, bad decision and bad execution. So I'm not. It's not confidence. I hate bagging players, but I don't think he's the answer. There's a reason he's come on for 20 minutes, and Reyna's had the start. And if his fitness is there, he'll probably be asked to play for longer, to affect a game for longer. But I don't think there's too much fear when an opposing manager sees Origi coming on for the last 20 minutes at this point.
It does make all this tiredness and everything. But this poor old Rodri, he's played 41 games, bless him, this season, and he wants a little bit of a rest.
Begging for a rest, yeah.
I played nearly 140 games in 2 seasons on crap pitches, and I loved every minute of that 140 odd games. It was brilliant. I had to get the club doctor out to me at the end of the season because I got blood blisters all on my body. I was absolutely spent. And they're moaning about 41 games, and they're tired. They get all these statisticians saying, oh, he's run too many yards. He's run too many yards. Everybody's metabolism is different. How do they know that they've run too many yards? I'm not having that at all. John Robertson, greatest player I ever played with. He was the worst trainer ever, but a genius. You know, for goodness sake, don't categorize everybody in the same, you know, pigeonhole. It's ridiculous.
Someone get Birtles some shin pads. He's in great nick and he's ready for a comeback.
Just one other thing on Origi as well. Like I noticed, I think I said this on the post-match stream on Saturday, why I question whether it's confidence or what. Like, there were times where Gibbs White wanted him to run in behind and he took the easy option and came short. There was a time where he gave Nico almost no option on a 1-2 and just took another easy option. So I thought, it was a pretty horrible substitute appearance from him, and we need to see a lot more if we're going to bring him on in future. Let's move on to the other games because the clock is ticking. Just get some early thoughts on Everton. Emily, we know exactly what they're going to do. It's going to be brutal, and it's going to be if the ball's on the halfway line, it's a dead ball. It's going in our box. The test we face is pretty obvious, isn't it?
You know how we have conceded 22 goals from set pieces and we're the worst in the Premier League? Everton have scored most of their goals from set pieces. They are the set piece specialists.
Don't tell me that, Emily. Jesus.
Sorry, that's a stat for you. And they know that. We know that. And Dyche knows us. We know Dyche is regularly a visitor at the City Ground. He knows exactly how we play. He knows our frailties. So what's he going to do? He's going to get set pieces. He's going to be lobbing balls into the box. I personally think we might need to go to a back 3 on Saturday if we are to stand any chance. If we can get Felipe Orbolo patched up, get them in the centre for an extra defender in the box, because we're going to need to defend for our lives. It's going to be a scrap. We know every game we've played Everton since we've been in the Premier League, apart from the one we recently played them where we didn't really turn up, but it's been a scrap. It will be a scrap. They will pummel our box. And if we are not on it on Saturday, it could be embarrassing.
Emily, you've just pushed me over the edge now. I'm going down the pub when I put the phone up. Goodness me, after that stat, dear me. I know
you're not going to the pub. You're going back to that Ted Baker sale. But I endorse everything Emily says about getting Willy Bolly out there if he's fit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that, because what did we do last season when we needed to stay up? We played 3 at the back.
Yeah,
and it worked.
It's not pretty. So you lose the creativity of a Rayner. But unfortunately for me, Saturday's a scrap. And I know we've talked about not having Yates in the starting lineup on Saturday. I think for this match alone, we might need Yates.
I mean, we're unbeaten the last 3 games at home. We beat Fulham, who look at their result yesterday at West Ham. Look at Villa's result at Arsenal. We beat Villa 2-0 at home. We drew with Crystal Palace. We should have beat Crystal Palace. These are the minute details that could cost you. We've all said we should have won those 2 games rather than draw them. And had you won those 2 games, no, everything's ifs and buts, but you can consider yourself virtually safe. But when you don't, and then you've got to go to one of your rivals, for Premier League survival, I think you've got to get on the front foot against Everton and put them under pressure, because you'll soon get the crowd going against them if you do that.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is they've obviously got Chelsea tonight, and if that doesn't go their way, and then we put pressure on them and say we get a win out of them, that drags them then into the relegation fight, doesn't it? Because at the moment it's a 2-horse race between us and Luton, but if we can drag Everton into it as well, they're going to be under a huge amount of pressure.
Yeah, I think Everton will beat Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea are anything special. I think we'll beat Chelsea. I think we no problem at all. We beat them at their place early in the season, drew with them at the City ground last season. Man City is a different animal because they've just peaked again at the right time. We got a point last season, but you've got to maybe write that one off unless you're very, very fortunate and they have a massive off day.
I suppose, Temps, the question to me is, like Emily sort of touched on it already, do you sacrifice Rayner for a centre half? And we've got Niakate as well. We've forgotten about him. He's the other specialist centre half, and go more defensive. Or, like Gary said, do you take the game to them and hope that we can win enough first contacts on set pieces and then deal with, the second balls and scramble it away?
There'll be debate in the system for sure. It's definitely a chat that they'll be having. But, I mean, my principle would be against the 5 or 6 teams that you're in the mix with at the wrong end of the table, impose your game plan rather than reacting to theirs. So if ours is pinning their fullbacks by having advanced wingers, progressive passes, Gibbs White, Danilo, whoever, in and around the top of the box, and a physical number 9, then that should be enough, particularly at home, when I think we've had the confidence, we've had the possession, we're creating more chances. My overriding thought is that we shouldn't bend to what we think Everton might be. The reality is exactly everything that Emily describes. There's going to be a lot of balls into the box. They're very adept at it. I didn't know that set piece stat, but that plays to their strengths, plays to them playing long diags, taking long throw-ins and trying to force as many corners as they can. But they still have to defend against what we throw at them. We could still have periods of possession and we can still disrupt them with our own weapons. So my hunch is same shape, but the debate will definitely be happening behind the scenes.
If how bad Alanga's injury is, do we know?
Not officially. I suspect he might be missing this game, but not officially.
I think if you play 5 with the pace we had, what we saw at the end of last season that kept us up, the Brennan pace, Gibbs White starting things from deep, I think that could be the way forward. But I'm not sure with the personnel we've got fit at the moment that we could possibly do that with a 5 going forward because Chris Wood then will get isolated a little bit, and we don't want that. So I think be positive. Go and try and beat them at their own game. Don't be clever. Don't give silly goals away. Just defend better. Concentrate better. Emily said they're going to bang the ball in our box every opportunity they get. Teams do that. They never used to, look at videos when I was playing. You just, backed yourself. Right, we'll beat them. We're better than them. And you put a team out there to do that. But now everything's gone through with a fine-tooth comb. Every detail is watched and analysed, and every team will say for us, right, they don't defend in their own box, just bang it in the box, get it in early, put them under pressure. If they win the first ball, we'll get the second ball. It's simple, And
just to add to that stat, by the way, so most of Everton's goals have come from set pieces. They're only second behind Arsenal for the amount of set piece goals in the Premier League. So not only do they score most of their goals from them, they've scored the second most in the Premier League for this season. So we've really got to be on our game on Saturday and somehow.
All I say is in trying to flip that, they've only scored 32 goals in total. So I think Sheffield United have 30 goals. Burnley have outscored them. Luton have outscored them. We've scored 42 goals. So our advance to the league table suggests more adventurous, make more mistakes, a bit less methodical than Everton perhaps. But we are scoring from open play. They're really not. Their game is about trying to nick it 1-0, they're scoring less than a goal a game. That's unfair. They played 31, scored 32, so slightly more than a goal a game. But they've got no weapon beyond this bombing of the box. And
that's exactly what they did at the City Ground. If you take away the emotion from that dreadful 1-0 defeat at the City Ground earlier in the season, that's all they did, isn't it? They scored that one goal and that was it, shut up shop. So you're right, Temps. I need to look at it in a positive way and think, well, actually, how likely are they to score? We've just got to make sure we just don't let them in. And like Garry said, just defend well. It's really simple.
Well, my initial instinct was play 3 at the back, but now I think we should go for it. And also, if you play more attacking, you're less likely to concede corners, really. We don't want to encourage them onto us. Look what we did at Luton when we went to 3 at the back, and that flipped the game and it played right into their hands. So, I would stick with the more attacking principle and try and take the game.
Like I said, Matt, if you've got the pace like we had last season against Arsenal in particular, when we stayed up, we had outstanding pace going forward. If we've got that on Saturday, then I think you can play 5 at the back, but I'm not sure by the look of it with the injury problems, we'll have that. And I'd love us to see us more solid at the back. Niakate can come in, he'll head the ball, and you need leaders out there as well at the back. And I just think we look tighter when we have 5 at the back. It looks a lot more safe and secure, and I think it only works if you have got that counter threat, which I'm not sure we will have with the injury problems.
Yeah, we'll wait and see on Alanga. Wait and see. Before we go around the room about the relegation battle, a quick thank you to Brewbacker, our second sponsors for this episode. As always, there's more details of what they do with the description in the link for this episode. But if you've got any noise concerns around your business, they are the people for you. So thanks very much to Red season ticket holder Danny Baker for his support. Right, how are we feeling about the relegation battle, Temps? Because it was a weekend where we saw funny results happen. This was at the top end of the table, but it feels like every game's pretty unpredictable now. So how are you feeling about it all?
Still in better shape than Luton. They play before us. They've got a relatively winnable game at home at the weekend. So that'll be framed in our mind. We'll know by the time we play Everton at 1:30 on Sunday, don't we? What we need to do, what the table looks like. And then we'll see that as an opportunity to kick on. But irrespective of everything else going on around us, for me, there are enough points in the games against Everton, Sheffield and Burnley to ease us clear of danger. Gary's framed the Chelsea game as well, but you wouldn't want to be relying on getting a result against Chelsea, given that our 5th game of 5 is against Man City. I'm putting weight on.
We play better against teams we're not expected to do well against.
Yeah, we have done, haven't we? Especially back end of last season, early part of this. That's absolutely fair.
At their place, unlucky. We were unlucky a little bit against them at our place. We've beaten Man United, which we couldn't do last season. I mean, I know they're pretty poor this season, but we tend to do reasonably well against the better teams and lose to the teams we're expected to beat.
But if we get something from Everton, Sheffield United, Burnley, that's enough. Home and hosed. I don't see the trapdoor being particularly high this year. It's a bit shameful is the wrong word, but disappointing that we find ourselves in this position, and the ambition is simply avoid the drop because we've invested so much. We thought we'd kicked on so much, and there's been hints and periods in games where we've shown that we're a better side than the number of points that we have. Possibly others will make an argument against that, I'm sure. But let's see what Luton do at the weekend. Get ahead of ourselves, and then know that there's 7 or 8 points in this for us if we find a way to attack, pick progressive sides, not clam up, not play like a team that's avoiding to lose in those games against Everton, Sheffield United and Burnley.
And we've still got does anybody know about the points thing, the appeal? That's gone all quiet. Yeah. Nobody seems to know what's going on there.
That starts next Monday, but I don't know if we'll get the result before the end of the season. They don't have to give the result before the end of the season. I'm sure they'd want to, the Premier League, because it's an absolutely terrible look for them if they don't. But yeah, the hearing starts next Monday, and I guess it lasts a couple of days. So we shall see. What if, Emily, I offered you, we knew Luton were going to lose, and if I said Forest lose to Everton, but Luton lose to Brentford, would you take that now because it ticks another game off or not?
Not in an ideal world, no. I don't ever want to see Forest lose. I want us to pick up all 3 points on Saturday. It's really simple maths, though, isn't it? We just have to match what Luton do for the rest of the season, and we stay up because we've got a superior goal difference, and we've got that vital extra point at the moment. No, I absolutely wouldn't want to take that, but if it meant us staying up, I'd have to. I'd like to think we've got enough in the tank to get something. When something, I mean at least a point out of Everton on Saturday. Brentford are starting to turn a corner, so maybe they could pick up something at Luton. So yeah, I mean, would you take it? Who'd take a Forest loss? No one.
No chance.
No.
I'd spin the dice on this. I'd back us to get into a better position than neutral against Luton in this round of fixtures. I would not take that offer for a second.
No,
I feel like Luton have to beat Brentford as well, because they've got Wolves away after that, which they might do well, but they haven't got the track record to suggest they will.
No, I mean, they've got favourable fixtures if you look at their fixtures compared to ours, because we've got more away games and we're notoriously not great away. But, you know, everyone's lauding Luton, but they are still 18th in the Premier League. They haven't got any relative form. Yes, they're battling in every game and they're everyone's second favourite team, it seems, at the moment. But they did get absolutely thumped by Man City, which you would have expected. But that would have been a dent in their confidence. Like I say, Brentford are starting to turn a corner, so hopefully they can beat Luton. But yeah, like Temp says, you've got to back us. You've got to back us over them. You've just got to, because otherwise, what are we doing?
You talk about Luton. I mean, we the Trent Navigation, when we did that live one, Luton was mentioned a long time ago, and I said, Luton, don't write Luton off. You can't write Luton off because they're so honest. People like them because they've had nowhere near as much money as we've had to spend. They've got a basic squad, they've got a number of players, and they've done unbelievably well to still have a chance of avoiding relegation with the squad they've had and the money they've spent. I think that's the main reason people keep mentioning them, and they never say die. They never give up. Twice against us, we've seen it. 2-0 up, 2-2, 1-0, 89th minute, 1-1. Those games, could save them and cost us. Those two games alone. And that's
don't get me wrong. Yeah, if I wasn't a Forest fan or we weren't in this position, I know I'd be rooting for Luton because I love rooting for the underdog. But unfortunately, they're my fall guy this year because we need to stay up.
But I'm just, it's when we won things. We were everybody's favourite second team because we came out of nowhere, little Nottingham, and we mixed it with the big boys. And that's how it happens. And you've got to give Luton incredible praise for what they've done this season, because everybody said, right, they'll probably be the bottom team rather than Sheffield United and Burnley. But they haven't. They've proved people wrong. They've adapted reasonably well. And I tell you what, they've caused the big teams very, very many problems. Man City only won 2-1 there, I think. So they can mix it, and they know what it takes to get out of a game. We don't, I don't think, at the moment. That's the worry for me. We keep making the same mistakes. And if we can cut that out, then we've got every chance.
Luton's upcoming fixture, by the way, obviously Brentford, which I'd say I feel like they have to win. Wolves away, when Wolves will hopefully have a few more players back from injury. Again, we call them at the right time, didn't take advantage. And then it's Everton at home, which puts extra onus on our game against Everton. So if we can get something from that game, or ideally win it, and see what the Chelsea game turns. Chelsea is so flaky. They might Chelsea could beat them 4-0, but they could lose 3-1 as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. That's the kind of team they are. Right, as ever, if you've enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. You can sign up to become a channel member. Give us a good review on iTunes. It all very much helps the cause. Thank you very much. Any other business, Michael Temple?
Big day at Trent Bridge today. Hope Notts can get it done against Worcestershire. Bit of weather around, we'll see. Reports of a tornado in West Bridgeford earlier on. I know a few roof tiles have been ripped off and some kind of tornado was spotted swirling down Repton Road. A drone show at Trent Bridge on Friday night if your kid wants to come and see a 300-foot dinosaur in the skies over West Bridgeford. So, yeah, that's my week. And obviously looking forward to Forest at the weekend. And I am going to back us to get a result in that one. I think we've got it within us. I think there is a certain attacking confidence, and yeah, I'm hopeful. Glass is half full.
Drone show sounds good. Yeah, I might check that out. Emily, anything from you?
I just want to briefly mention a new podcast that my team at BBC East Midlands, the team have been working on. It's Hillsborough Unheard Nottingham Forest fans. It is, of course, 35 years since the Hillsborough disaster today. And it slightly flips the story in that it focuses on the Nottingham Forest fans that were at Hillsborough that day and the trauma they may have suffered seeing 97 Liverpool fans died. And it explores the relationship between the Liverpool survivors and what are now called the Nottingham Forest survivors. Personal to me, because my dad and my brother were both there that day. I wasn't there, I was watching on from television because I was too young. But I know, speaking on their behalf, how traumatic that day was, and it was for so many thousands of Forest fans that were there. So if you've got a bit of time, it won't take you very long. They're very short episodes. It's on BBC Sounds and it's called Hillsborough Unheard Nottingham Forest Fans. And just a plea for the weekend, I know I bang on about supporting the players and don't be negative. Stop slagging off individual players. We all need to do that. We need to stop slagging off the team. Now is the time to get behind this Nottingham Forest team, because we've got to be in it together. We need to be loud, we need to be proud, and we just need to get behind them no matter where we are in the game, whether we're 1-0 up, 3-0 down. Support the team to the end of the season, because last season it worked and it's got to work this season, because we cannot get relegated. And that's me done.
Oh God, no, we can't. Very good, very good. Gary, anything for you this week before we go?
Yeah, I'm just annoyed with referees a little bit. I'm seeing refereeing going down the pan a little bit. I thought a referee on Saturday, I don't think he was particularly good again. I think there were so many things he got wrong. But, you know, I think VAR is doing that to referees as well. You know, they seem to think they've got a safety net. They can, you know, that VAR is going to get them out of trouble. Whereas, you know, when before VAR, referees were very strong. We had the best referees in the world, no doubt about it. Everybody said so. And now, you know, I do feel a little bit sorry for them. I've never thought I'd hear myself say that. But, you know, they're having their powers taken away mentally because of VAR and how bad VAR is. And if they don't have a word about VAR in the summer, it'll be a disgrace for me, because they're costing people their livelihoods. They're costing people, you know, maybe relegation. And it's got to change. Something has got to be done. And please change that rule. I'll say it again in football, from corners, that, you know, you see players not looking where the ball is, just holding players off because they know they can't give a penalty away until the ball comes in the box. How ridiculous is that? Stop that. Give a penalty if people are doing that and pulling people about. They'll soon stop it. And we'll see centre-half scoring goals again.
Yeah. The ref wasn't good on Saturday. I wish we had refs that would just let a bit more go. He didn't really let anything go. So, yeah, I thought he had a pretty disappointing game. But right, nothing from me before we go. We'll be back tomorrow morning, I think at 10 a.m. with Emily and Greg. It'll be a Q&A, so I'll put an appeal out for questions later. And then we'll replay the live show from last week as Thursday's podcast. So hopefully everyone can check that out. Good to have 400 people with us throughout. Appreciate the company today. Emily, thank you very much.
Thank you. A big shout out to my dog, Freddie, who didn't bark for the first time in a long time. Well done, Freddie.
Well done, Freddie. Pat on the back for Freddie. Temps, and not anything more from you. Thank you, Michael Temple.
I'll shout to Emily's dog as well. Well done, Freddie.
Well, doing that rain dance for today, Temps.
Yeah, maybe.
Need it.
Grim out here at Long Eaton, I'll tell you. Sun's out, but the sky's black.
It's very it's very pleasant where I am. I'm going for a walk after this. Garry Birtles, thank you very much.
So it's bound to be there.
Good to have you with us as ever. Right. Thanks very much for everyone's company. We shall be back tomorrow, but in the meantime, have a good day and we shall see you soon.